How do I know how to choose the best husband or the best wife that is God's perfect will for me? This is one of the questions one of my Facebook followers asked me when I made a video on choices, marriage choices. And in that video, I emphasized that marriage could be a blessing or a curse, and what you get depends on the choice you made before marriage. And talking of choices, I talked about choices you can make as a person before marriage, choices of self-development, and then I talked about the choice of who to marry. And I said these two choices are very important for the outcome you get in a marriage, because you could marry the best husband or the best wife, but if you yourself, if you are not well prepared, if you had nothing to offer, it means you might not get the best, even though your spouse is the best he or she can be. Take for instance, you got a very beautiful car, right? You invested your money to buy the car of your dreams. And then maybe for some reasons you do not know how to drive. And then you went to hire a driver. But when trying to make the choice of a driver, you selected a bad driver. And then the first day he resumed for work, he had a terrible accident and the car got damaged beyond repair. And just imagine your life was spared from that accident. Can you see the role of choice here? You made a good choice of getting a good car. However, you made a bad choice of selecting a driver that would help you drive the car. And then think about it the other way as well. You are the driver. You are a good driver, but then the choice of car you had is a bad one. So let's assume you went to buy a fairly used car and you did not properly inspect the functionability of the car. You didn't check if the engine was in order. So many things to check in the car. Maybe you did not even get a professional in that aspect to help you inspect the car. And then you brought it home, and then the first day you went out with that car, even though you're the best driver, the car crashed as well because it wasn't in the best working condition. So you see that making choices in marriage, you can just relate it to this example I gave. It's not a one-way traffic. Choices you make in marriage, it's a two-way thing. It's not a one-person thing. I've heard people say, oh, I just need, mostly men, oh, I just need a good woman and I'll be fine. You can marry even the best woman, but if you, the man, is faulty and you're not willing to change that fault, you're not willing to develop, you're not willing to unlearn, that marriage might still suffer some problems. And so today I want to talk about how do you now know how to choose? Because it's one thing to choose, but it's another to know how to choose. Many persons do not know how to choose. They just choose based on available options. And the first step I want to talk about in knowing how to choose is, first, you need to know what you want. What do you want as a believer? What do you want in your marriage as a believer? Which type of wife do you want? If you are the Christian brother, which type of husband do you want if you are the Christian sister? When you discover what you want, you start working towards that which you want. How do you work towards that? First is by trying to become what you want in your marriage. If you want a diligent husband, start training yourself to be diligent as well. If you want a diligent wife, you start training yourself to be a diligent husband. You cannot dream to have a diligent wife and then you mess up. You do not want to take responsibility for anything, yet you want a diligent spouse. But when you know what you want, it's very easy to know it when you see it. Let's say, for instance, you want a phone. You do not know. If you do not know the type of phone you want, when you go to the market, be it market, physical shop, or the online shop, you might get confused. You might not even know which to choose because you've not done your research before going for shopping. But if you already have a type of phone you want to buy, you already have that specifications, you have compared different versions, and you know you have a strong why you want to go for that particular phone. You have already done your research on how to know the original, how to know the fake. When you go to the market, you can easily know which is original and which is fake because you've done your research. And it's because you know what you want, right? So when you go to the market, if the seller offers you something that is not what you want, you reject it. If you go to the first shop and what you want is not in that shop, you move to the next available shop. This is because you have a specification in mind. You know what you want. You do not just settle for any phone just because the first seller you saw didn't have your type of phone, because some sellers are good marketers. They will convince you to buy another one outside your choice. But because you already knew the type of phone you wanted, you continue the search for your spec. So the only way you know how to choose the right partner in marriage, the right spouse, is by knowing what you want. If you are a child of God, what do you want in a husband? What do you want in a wife? Then secondly, when you have known what you want in a spouse, we've talked about working towards becoming that which you want. The ultimate way for a Christian to choose the perfect will of God in marriage is to align with God's will. Before marriage, have you ever heard anything from God relating to your life? Has God ever given you a word regarding anything about your life, and you listened, you obeyed, and you were sure this is God telling you to do this? Because in choosing God's perfect will, you will need to be able to hear God. You will need to be able to discern which of these available options are from God. Just like when we talked about the phone seller. If you go to the first seller, he doesn't have what you want. You need to go to the one that have what you want. Now, because God is the origin of a godly marriage, you want to be sure you are choosing that which came from the source of a godly marriage, which is God. Have you developed the ability to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit? When He's saying, choose this, you know this is Him. When He says, this is not it, you know you don't have to go that way. So the first step to know if someone is God's perfect will for you is to go back to God in prayers and ask for His mind regarding that particular relationship. If you remember in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, some of those kings that honored God, before they went for any battle or they took major decisions in their life, they want to call a prophet who hears from God, and they will ask, what is God saying about this? Is God in support of us to go for this battle or not? They want to know God's mind because they wanted to be sure God is with them. And so even in marriage, to choose God's perfect way, you want to be sure God is the one leading you. Many persons who are believers might come come around to ask for your hand in marriage if you are a lady. And if you are a man, there are many Christian singles, many female believers who might meet your spec. But then not every believer is your spouse, right? So that's where the discerning spirit comes. You need to know how to discern. You need to know when God is the one speaking. You need to know how to get clarity. I will end by saying, if you have never heard from God before, if you do not know how to hear from God, if you do not know how to discern, start today to develop that relationship, because discernment will not just automatically be bestowed on you because you want to get married. God is not a magician. Knowing God is a process. You have never heard God regarding anything about your life, but all of a sudden, because you want to get married, you now want to hear God. It's not done that way. You need to start from somewhere. You see, it's a step-by-step process. If you have not obeyed God in the little things, how do you suddenly just want to start hearing from God for a major issue as marriage? Marriage is a serious business. Take it seriously. Take your relationship with God seriously, because your marriage is tied to your purpose. And remember, marriage can be a blessing or a curse. What you get depends on what you choose. And what you choose depends on how you choose. It is very easy to choose fake if you do not know the original. And how do you know the original? By going back to God, who is the origin of marriage. He will lead you to his perfect will. Remember, when you are not sure, wait until you get clarity. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jane Chidebere Ugwoke. I'm the lead coach and founder of Godly Families Possible. You can call me the possibility coach, because I believe with God all things are possible, and that includes a godly marriage in this age and generation when divorce is on the rampant. God bless you.